Yes, this VM with ADDS role has been created. It took almost 20 minutes for this deployment to succeed. So we stopped here, right? So let me just come back here. Yeah, we stopped here. It took almost 20 minutes for me to create. Just few minutes back, it got created. Fine. Now, next, we can move ahead with this task 3. In task 3, we will be creating another virtual machine. And this virtual machine we will be using for client purpose. It's a client machine. We'll come to know the purpose later, but let's create another virtual machine. But before creating a virtual machine, we need to do all these steps. Let's go and do one by one. So on the computer lab, maybe I'll just close this. On the computer lab, displaying the web browser for the Azure portal. If in case I closed accidentally, no problem. Let's open it again. Yeah, the deployment is completed. Now open a PowerShell session in the Cloud Shell and run the following command. Let's go and open a PowerShell session in the Cloud Shell. Yes, it is opening a PowerShell. And I need to get ready with these commands. And these commands I have to execute it. So what is getting done? So I'm setting a resource group 11RG. And then I'm getting the VNet configuration. And then I'm adding a new subnet called CL subnet. If you go to your account, okay, and if you go to virtual network, you go to your virtual network, there is already a virtual network. Inside that virtual network, if you see, there might be one subnet, that is ADDS subnet. But for creating a client VM, I need a subnet called client subnet, and that is what I'm doing. I could do it here itself, but according to lab, let's run these commands. So this is the command I have to run. Without modifying anything, I can run it. Yeah, here I'm going to run this command. Yes, it got succeeded. I can verify it even here if I refresh it. See, I can see a subnet getting created. Now in this subnet only, we will be deploying the next machine. So let's do that. I can do it even from here. Let me go to the home page. Okay, I should do it here where I have this Cloud Shell open. Okay, fine. So in the Azure portal, in the toolbar, under manage files, let's upload couple of files. What is that file I have to upload? It is deploy client11.json and deploy client11.11.parameters.json. So this one, client 11 or client 11 JSON and client 11 parameters.json. There is another client, client 11A. It's not about A, it's about the first two. Let me open one file and upload it, another file and upload it. Now both the files are uploaded. Now I need to create this particular deployment. Let's do that. So what this command does, it will create a virtual machine that is a client VM in the VNet, which we have already created. Particularly in this VNet, it gets created under this particular subnet. Let me run this command. Again, this command will take almost 10 minutes to complete. And then the next one is deployment of an Azure Bastion. So that's totally up to you. If you're very good and if you don't want to go for Azure Bastion, you can just skip this task and straight away you can go for exercise 2. And wherever you are trying to connect any virtual machine with Bastion host, you have to connect to that machine without Bastion host. So if you know how to do it, then Okay, you can go ahead like that. Now, if you don't know, I want to go and practice even this, then you can even do it. So you can create a Bastion host, and then using Bastion host, you can connect to the DC machine. So DC machine we have created in task 2. And if I want to connect to that machine, I'm connecting via Bastion host. That is according to lab. But even as a best practice, just to save your credit, Bastion host will charge you some money. And if you forget to delete it, it might overrun your credit. Just to avoid some wastage, you can avoid this step. You can avoid the step 4 and then straight away go to exercise 2. And that is what I will be doing. I will not create any Bastion host. Once this deployment is successful, then I skip task 4 and straight away I'll go with the exercise 2. And if I want to connect, then this DC machine through connection via Bastion host is very easy. But if in case you don't have Bastion host, we need to configure something in this DC machine. Let's do that configuration. Meanwhile, when this is getting created, let's do that modification. For that, maybe I'll go to some other tab and search for virtual machine. And this is the virtual machine I'm talking about, that is AZ140 DC11. So what exactly we are doing is this. See, we have a VM. This is our DC VM. And I'm here somewhere. And I want to connect to this VM. According to lab, what you have to do, you have to deploy a Bastion host. And you try to connect through the Bastion host to this particular DC machine. Right now, this machine is not having any public IP, no public IP. Because you are avoiding this Bastion host. So what you do, you directly try to connect to this DC machine, means then it needs a public IP. I need to give the public IP, and then I have to create an energy if it is not there. And if it is not there, again, I have to enable a route for 3389 so that I can take RDP this machine directly. All these settings I have to do. I have to first enable a public IP. If it is not there, I have to enable an energy if it is not there. And after enabling energy, I have to enable this route as inbound port. Let's do that now. So this is the machine. Let me get inside this machine. Let me minimize this. And if I go to the networking, under networking, if I click on network settings, you can see that there is no network security group. Let's add network security group first. Once you click on that blue button, it creates a network security group and updates that network security group against our NIC card. Yes, it is created. Because it is a new network security group, it will not have any 3389 port number. Let's enable that inbound port. From anywhere, I need to take RDP, that is 3389, and it should be allowed. Let me add that. So energy created, 3389 inbound rule is also created. Now next we have to go and create a public IP. And for creating public IP, so you can see that 3389 is allowed. For creating a public IP, let me go here, select on this NIC card. And if you see here, this NIC card only has a private IP, no public IP. How do we enable it? Click on this IP config. Check on this associate a public IP address. If something is getting selected, fine. If not, you can click on create a public IP address and say OK. A new public IP gets added and say save. It'll take a couple of minutes. Let me wait until these two modification is getting done successfully. Once this is done, then I can connect to this VM directly, not via Bastion host. Yes, that is possible because now this DC VM is having a public IP. Proper energy rule is allowing me to connect so that I can connect. And we avoided Bastion host. One reason is that because you only have $100 credit, just to save some credit, we are going direct connection. That is one thing. And one more thing, when you go through this Bastion host and we are already in the virtual environment, you might feel little delay in the packet transfer and you may not get greater user experience. User experience is not that good. That is the reason I'm just telling you to go ahead without Bastion host. Yes, it is enabled. Now all the things whichever is needed is done. So what's the status of that VM? It is still under creation. That's okay. Let it get created. Yeah. Now we can connect to this VM. How do we connect? Go to overview. This is the VM's overview and copy the public IP. And wherever it says connect via Bastion, don't connect via Bastion, you connect directly. Either you can go and connect via Bastion or connect directly. And we are trying to create a direct connectivity. That's it. Let me copy this public IP, go for RDP and select remote desktop connection and paste this IP address and say connect. And it'll ask me the username and password. So this is the username and this is the password associated to this DC VM. And I say yes, and it will let me connect to this. So now we are connected to DC VM. Whatever we want, we can make modifications here. Now, what exactly we are going to do? So we have created ADDS with some domain name called adatum.com. Now we have ADDS, which is having a domain controller, everything set. Now we have to create some basic objects in that ADDS. I'll create some organizational units. So totally there will be 3 organizational unit. Yeah, totally there will be 3 organizational unit and multiple users we will be creating. So totally 9 users of normal user, AD user 1, 2, 3, up to 9. And then we will be creating a WVD admin. You know what is WVD? It's Windows Virtual Desktop, or it can be AVD also. That's okay. And these are the groups we are going to create. So there is pooled group, WVD pooled, remote app, personal, users, admin. Maybe some of these names might make sense for you now. So pooled or personal, host pool. Host pool can be of 2 types, right? It can be pooled or personal. Next is app. App can be of again 2 types, right? So it can be desktop app or remote app. Yes, we are just creating some groups and we make these users part of these groups. And then we assign permission at the group level and we check whether these users are getting access to our AVD environment or not. In the class, we will be running enter ID track, whereas in the lab, we will be running this Active Directory track. That's it. Let's go and do that now. Okay, fine. So now we are in DC machine. So this is this is lab computer. From lab computer, we have connected to DC machine, which is running in Azure cloud. Okay, I can minimize this. Now in the DC machine, just open a Windows PowerShell ISE as administrator. So make sure that you are in the proper machine. Go search for PowerShell ISE and run it as administrator. And I need to open one notepad file just to save the commands. See, what are we doing here is that in our local server, we have enabled this enhanced securities on. So we are turning it off just to avoid some confusion with these commands. Let's say Control A, Control C, and execute these commands here and hit enter. So it's done. Now we have disabled that enhanced security. Next, let's create one organizational unit. If there is only one command, you can directly execute it here. When there are multiple commands, put it first here and then go for execution. So when you have single command, yeah, you can directly paste it. Whereas when you have multiple commands, PowerShell will not behave properly. Fine. So now we are creating an organizational unit, Active Directory organizational unit, name called to sync, and path is adatum.com. That's our forest domain name as well. And then accidental deletion. Are we going to protect? No, we don't want it. So what exactly we have done? So we have created one organizational unit called to sync. Fine. Next, let's create another organizational unit, and that is WVD clients. Let me run this command. Yeah. What we have done now, we have created another organizational unit. Next, the PowerShell administrator ISE pane. Okay, we need to run these commands for creating the necessary user. We can't directly copy it here. So let me go here and copy all these commands. What exactly we do with this command is that we will be creating our necessary user, a normal user from 1 up to 9, AD user 1, 2, 3, like that, and then admin user WVD admin 1. So totally 10 users we will be creating. While creating user, you need to give some complex password. So I strongly recommend everyone to use the password what I'm using. It is like PA55W.RD1234. It is something like password, because this 55 will look almost like yes, yes. So they have added, and the dot will almost resemble O. So they have added just to give the complexity. Password 1234. Similarly, you can even change the password here as well. It is again PASS55WO, that is .RD1234. So if you have this password, there won't be any confusion. So when I'm trying to, if you face any issues, if I'm trying to help you, that time I don't face any issues with this particular thing. Fine. So now let me copy all, Control A, copy, and come back here and paste it and hit enter. You might be creating, so you can see the output. Output, what it says is, this is my command. It says that AD user 1 got created, and then the user principal name is aduser1@adatum.com. All those things, if you come down, you can see AD user 9. Again, that user principal name is adatum.com. And when we sync these users with Azure Cloud, we will do some slight modification to this particular user principal name. We will see that later. And at last, we also created an admin user, that is WVD admin 1, and he is also created. So what have we done? We have created the necessary users. So right now we have created only 2 organizational units. So third one, we will create it later. And we also have created 2 types of users. Okay. Next, what are we supposed to do? This is done. We need to add these users to respective groups. So first we need to create the group and then add members to this group. Let's do that now. So when you have multiple command, go to Notepad, copy the command first there, and then copy and paste it here. So totally we are creating 5 groups, just Active Directory groups I'm creating. And then let's say Control A, Control C, come here and execute it. It's created now. So what have we done? We have created all these groups. That's it. Let's come back here. And now we need to add members to this group. Who are the member? We have users, right? So AD1 up to 9 and WVD admin. So these users only randomly will be added to some groups. So some user might be part of multiple groups also. And that data is here. Let me first copy and we will see it here itself. If you see, for AVD pooled one, I'm adding a user 1, 2, 3, 4. And for the group remote app, I'm adding again user 1, 5, 6. And for WVD personal, I'm adding 7, 8, 9. And again, WVD users, again, I'm adding 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. Some randomly I'm adding users to the group. That's it. Let's run this command. Control C. So we are adding our domain users to the respective groups. Done. That's it. So we have done. So the next task, I will do it in another video.